The Rhine became a wall again, not because Rome chose restraint, but because Rome had been broken. An entire frontier collapsed. An entire generation of conquest vanished. Legions disappeared. Governors were slaughtered. Rome's confidence died in a forest. This was not an accident. It was not bad luck. It was the end of a plan that went too far. A plan built on roads, forts, and the belief that fear was enough. The man who made that plan possible never lived to see it fail. But without him, it collapsed anyway. To understand how Rome lost Germania, you must first understand how it almost won it, and why the frontier was never meant to hold. Germania was not Gaul. There were no cities to seize, no kings to replace, no tax system to inherit, only forests, rivers, and tribes that vanished when threatened. Roman armies could march through Germania, but they could not stay without changing the land itself. This was the problem Rome had never solved, and Augustus knew it. The Rhine was supposed to be the edge of the world, a boundary, not a doorway. But Rome had a habit of turning borders into invitations. And so Augustus chose a man who did not wait for instructions. Nero Claudius Drusus. Drusus was young, aggressive, and dangerously competent. He was not sent to hold Germania. He was sent to test it. And he tested everything. Where earlier commanders raided and withdrew, Drusus stayed. Where others punished tribes, he cut roads through their land. Where Rome demanded obedience, Drusus demanded access. This was not conquest by battle alone. It was conquest by permanence. And it terrified Rome's enemies and some of Rome's allies. Drusus did not begin with armies marching inland. He began with ships. Roman fleets pushed down the Rhine into waters no legionary had ever patrolled. The Frisians and Batavi were not destroyed. They were absorbed. Their scouts guided Roman columns. Their ships carried Roman soldiers. For the first time, Germania was not reacting to Rome. Rome was moving inside Germania, and it did not stop. Drusus understood something vital. Fear fades. Infrastructure remains. Roads were cut through forests that had never been mapped. Forts rose where no Roman army had wintered before. Oberraden, Haltern, Mogontiacum. Each was a message. Rome is not visiting. Rome is staying. From these bases, Roman patrols reached deeper every season, and Germania began to look quiet. Too quiet. Drusus crossed the Rhine again, and again, this time toward the Weser. Roman discipline met ambush, and survived. At Arbelo, Roman columns were nearly destroyed, but they held. The tribes learned a dangerous lesson. Rome could bleed and keep advancing, and so Drusus pushed further, to the main river, to the Chatti and Suabi. Always forward, always faster than Rome could fully support. Then Drusus reached the Elbe. No Roman commander had ever gone this far. The river was wide, cold, and impossibly distant from Rome. This was not a battlefield victory. It was a statement. Germania was no longer a frontier. It was a corridor. And then, everything stopped. Drusus fell from his horse. Not in battle, not in ambush. On the return march, the man who had carried Rome beyond its limits died before he could consolidate them. There was no successor ready, no system prepared, only unfinished roads, and forts waiting for orders. Rome tried to continue. Commanders rotated. Orders changed. Priorities shifted. What Drusus had built was not a finished frontier. It was a process, and that process depended on constant pressure. The forts still stood. Timber walls, earthworks, watchtowers rising above the forest. But forts without momentum become targets. Supply wagons now moved slower. Patrols ventured shorter distances. Winter quarters grew longer. The legions remained, but they no longer advanced. Germania noticed. Tribal scouts watched Roman roads grow quiet. They saw fewer columns, fewer punishments, fewer demonstrations of force. Rome still occupied the land, but it no longer dominated it. This was the first crack. Rome believed stability had arrived. The forts were permanent. The roads connected everything. The tribes appeared compliant. So Rome changed its approach. Generals were replaced by administrators. Diplomacy replaced intimidation. Law replaced force. Governors treated Germania as if it were already Gaul. Taxes were assessed. Disputes judged. Censuses planned. But Germania had never been conquered. only pressured. Roman law arrived before Roman loyalty. This was a fatal misreading. Tribal leaders did not resist openly. They adapted. They attended councils, accepted gifts, swore loyalty, and quietly waited. Rome mistook cooperation for submission and silence for peace. The tribes did not fight Rome head-on. They studied it. They watched how Roman columns moved, how camps were built, how roads constrained movement. They learned when Roman discipline was strongest and when it weakened. Winter, rain, forest. The land itself became a weapon. Roman roads that once projected power now dictated movement. Predictable routes, predictable camps, predictable schedules. Germania did not need to defeat Rome everywhere. Only once. Years after Drusus' death, Roman confidence returned. The forts still stood. The roads still functioned. The alliances still existed. Or so Rome believed. A new governor arrived. Certain that Germania was pacified, legions marched not as conquerors, but as administrators. They carried law, not fear. The columns moved through familiar terrain, along roads built by Roman hands. But those roads no longer belonged to Rome. Forests closed around them. Rain slowed them. Mud trapped them. All the advantages Drusus had created now worked in reverse. The frontier did not collapse suddenly. It turned inward. Rome did not lose Germania because it lacked strength. It lost Germania because it misunderstood control. Drusus proved that Rome could reach the Elbe, could build roads through forest, could plant forts deep in hostile land. But conquest requires more than reach. It requires permanence, consistency, and restraint. Rome advanced faster than it could absorb, built deeper than it could govern, and trusted systems that depended on one man. When Drusus died, the frontier did not fail immediately. It waited. Germania was not unconquerable, but it demanded a price Rome was unwilling to pay. The Rhine became the border again, not because Rome chose caution, but because Rome learned limits. Drusus did not fail. He revealed the boundary of empire. If this analysis changed how you understand Roman expansion, like the video, subscribe for more deep historical breakdowns that examine power, strategy, and the systems behind empires. And comment below, was Germania Rome's greatest missed opportunity, or the clearest warning it ever received? Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for another chilling true story.